Between the dates of March 29th and April 9th in 1865 is the time period when the final battles of the Civil War occurred, also known as the Appomottox Campaign. This campaign began in Virginia at the Appomottox Courthouse. On March 29th, Major General Philip Sheridan's cavalry began to move southwest towards the Confederates and the South Side Railroad. On April 1st, the first day of the campaign, thousands of Federal troops defeated 11,000 Confederates. This occurred at Five Forks. The Northern Army followed up with a win with an attack against the Confederates on April 2nd. The Union was under the leader, Major General George Pickett, and the Confederates were under the leader, Robert E. Lee.
The North cut off General Fitzhugh Lee's supplies, and he was forced to evacuate two cities, Richmond and Petersburg, that his troops were stationed in. He evacuated them on April 2nd through April 3rd. The Confederate groups went back to their homes by trails previously planned. They had been in the two cities for around 10 months. The main goal for these groups was at Amelia Courthouse.
The troops would gather together and receive supplies from Richmond. After they got the supplies, General Fitzhugh Lee wanted them to march along Richmond and the Danville Railroad to meet another army from Tennessee. The two Confederate armies would gather together in a large group to fight against William Sherman and his army.
The march from both cities started well, and many Southern Confederate soldiers were excited to fight again. After the first day of the trip, many were tired and hungry. When they reached the courthouse, the supplies had not arrived. Even though they had to keep going, the troops were out of food and supplies. While waiting for the supplies to arrive, General Lee stopped the march and sent soldiers to get food from farmers in the countryside. However, the farmers had barely any food, and the soldiers returned with empty hands.
The delay of supplies led to a day being taken away that could have been used for marching. This led the Northern Army to catch up. The Amelia Courthouse was the turning point of the war. On April 5th, the Confederate troops left the courthouse and only got a few miles before running into the Union Army on their line of march. This was towards the Danville Railroad.
General Fitzhugh Lee decided to change the route and march around the Union troops. His plan was to march west, go around the Northern troops, and try to resupply at Farmville. The North wanted the South to retreat their troops, but General Lee wanted to get across the Appomattox River so he could place that river between them and hopefully gain more distance. The Union Army soon noticed how important the bridge over the river was and set a crew to burn it down, hoping he would be able to reach the location before the South.
The Confederates, however, beat the bridge party to the river and destroyed and captured nearly the entire group. The Union attacked the Confederates yet again, destroying numerous wagons. The Confederate soldiers began breaking their stance or leaving the group to search for food. As more people starved and grew hungry, more gaps showed up in the army. The Union took advantage of these gaps.
Fitzhugh Lee saw this happening and was appalled. The entire group was falling apart. 8,000 men were lost through battle because of injury or being captured. The Southerners made another attempt to find and wait for rations and supplies, but they were caught up by the Union. Many of them never received the food and supplies they were supposed to.
The Confederates got cornered again, leaving General Lee to attempt a getaway another time. He hoped to finally get supplies further down south. He turned down and followed the railroad, but was surprised with the Northern troops cutting him and his soldiers off in Farmville. On April 7th, Lee received a letter sent from the general of the Union troops requesting his surrender. He decided that they were not going to give up yet and trekked westward. He decided that they would reach the Appomattox station before the Union troops. If this didn't happen, surrendering would be inevitable.